Whisper of the Heart is one of Studio Ghibli's most underappreciated works. Debuting in Japanese theaters on July 15, 1995, Whisper of the Heart is loosely based on a shoujo manga of the same name published in Reborn. The film follows middle schooler Shizuku Tsukishima, but many may know her as being the basis for the Lo-Fi Girl. Shizuku is an avid reader. In her frequent visits to the library, she notices a recurring name on the checkout cards, Seiji Amasawa. Shizuku navigates a complicated and changing world, but one day, she finally connects with Seiji and has a chance meeting with his grandpa, an antique shop owner. Through their interactions, Shizuku becomes inspired to write a novel. She pursues this dream by writing about Baron Humbert von Gickingen, a gentlemanly anthropomorphic cat based on a statue that's important to Seiji's grandpa. One major deviation from the manga is the presence of Take Me Home Country Roads, the country song for people who hate country songs originally penned by Bill Danoff, Taffy Nivert, and John Denver. The version showcased in the movie, though, is the cover performed by Olivia Newton-John. Shizuku adapts the song into Japanese. Her version focuses on the core of the original song instead of adapting it word for word, further showing her creativity. Whisper of the Heart is directed by Yoshifumi Kondo, who had previously undertaken other roles on Ghibli projects like Kiki's Delivery Service, Grave of the Fireflies, and Princess Mononoke. Sadly though, this would be his only main directorial role, as less than 3 years later, Kondo passed away. But he left behind a masterpiece. Whisper of the Heart also spawned a spin-off film, The Cat Returns, a far more fantastical film starring the Baron as one of the lead characters. The film came out on July 20th, 2002 in Japan, and similarly stars a young female lead, but she goes on a mystical adventure after saving a cat who turned out to be a prince. While neither film has the level of notoriety or synonymity with Ghibli as Totoro or Kiki, Whisper of the Heart has resonated with audiences around the globe, and today we're going to look at its journey to the English-speaking world. Get ready, because it had quite the ride from Japan to America. Whisper of the Heart's manga has yet to see an official English release, the only English version being a fan translation, but the movie had plans for an English release dating back to 2003. For context of the era, Spirited Away had debuted in American theaters less than a year prior, and catapulted itself into the American public's consciousness when it managed to win an Oscar on March 23, 2003 for Best Animated Feature Film. It beat Disney's Lilo & Stitch and Treasure Planet, DreamWorks' Spirit, and Blue Sky Studios' debut film Ice Age. Ghibli was already known in America thanks to the popularity of films like My Neighbor Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service on home video, but Spirited Away boosted awareness of the studio to Americans even further. This all being said, initial murmurings of an English dub of Whisper of the Heart started with an article published on August 7, 2003 by MTV, interviewing actress Brittany Snow. In the article, she mentioned she had just voiced a character in Whisper of the Heart. Going back to the notability of Spirited Away, the MTV article erroneously refers to Whisper as a sequel to Spirited Away, which is funny considering Whisper predates it by 6 years, not that it would be common knowledge. The movie was formally announced for an English release months later. However, there were problems on the horizon. During the premiere of Disney's Porco Rosso dub in Austin, Texas, Disney English language adapters Cindy and Don Hewitt discussed upcoming releases. Among the items of discussion, they brought up Whisper of the Heart, stating the translation was complete, but they were having problems with a song in the movie. Guess which song that could be? In December that year, the Hewitts announced some of the cast members for the dub of Whisper of the Heart in an interview with Nausicaa.net. We'll go over this later because this movie didn't come out for quite some time. That same year, though, Whisper spin-off The Cat Returns had an English subtitled debut at the Los Angeles Anime Festival on May 2nd. The Country Roads List movie would later have an English release announced by Disney on November 8, 2004, alongside Porco Rosso and a fresh, accurate redub of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, all slated for release on February 22, 2005. Disney also announced the star-studded cast list and bonus features of each film. Fans pondered what the holdup was for the release of the parent movie, Whisper of the Heart. As far as anyone knew, thanks to Nausicaa.net, the dub was allegedly done and ready to go, but yet unspecified problems prevented fans from being able to take it home to a place it belonged. Either way, with the cast list being announced with some big names attached to it, fans became excited to hear the English dubbed version of The Cat Returns. Before we get ahead of ourselves and talk about The Cat Returns, let's quickly go over the premise. I briefly gave a summary, but to elaborate, the movie stars a girl named Haru, who kindly saves a cat carrying a box from getting hit by a truck. Turns out, this cat is a prince and wants to repay Haru's kindness by offering many gifts. She's planned to be taken away to the Cat Kingdom and be married to the prince she saved, but she ain't having it. With the help of some new comrades, including the Baron from Whisper of the Heart, she needs to find a way back to her world before she becomes a cat permanently. Ahead of its debut on DVD, The Cat Returns' dub premiered at the Dallas Kid Film Festival in Texas on January 23, 2005, with another screening announced for the New York International Children's Film Festival on March 12th. The DVD met its release date of February 22, 2005, just under 3 years after the film's release in Japan. Disney's advertising campaign focused on promoting the other 2 movies released that day as well, presenting The Cat Returns, Nausicaa, and Porco Rosso like a set in their commercials. Let's look at the cast list that had fans excited. Starting us off here, our cat bride-to-be Haru is voiced by Anne Hathaway. At the time, Hathaway was known best for her roles in The Princess Diaries and Get Real. She was transitioning into more grown-up roles that year, such as starring in Brokeback Mountain, a very different film from The Cat Returns. As far as voice roles though, she would play the lead role of Red Puckett in 2006's Hoodwinked, and many years later voiced Jewel in Rio and Rio 2.
Yes, that's right. Just yesterday, I saved their prince from getting hit by a truck, and now the entire cat kingdom won't stop trying to repay me.
I see.
Hathaway's voice for Haru is higher pitched than her regular voice, but not as high pitched as her Japanese counterpart. She also had to do what many actors that frequently dub anime do: scream. A lot. The actress to play a younger Haru in a flashback early in the film is Katya Ko. I can't find anything about her, as there are many Katya Kos out there in the world, but it is cool they got an actual kid to play this role.
Do you like fish? They're really good. Here, try some.
The Baron is played by British star Cary Elwes. He was previously announced by Cindy and Don Hewitt to also play this character in the dub of Whisper of the Heart, unlike the Japanese version of the 2 films where the Baron is played by different actors. Elwes was also in a movie released the same day as The Cat Returns in America, also being in the Ghibli film Porco Rosso. Elwes drew inspiration from David Niven and Alec Guinness in his portrayal of this feline hero while remaining faithful to the spirit of the Japanese original. He adds that extra gentlemanly touch with a sophisticated British accent.
What I need you to do is to learn just one thing. Always believe in yourself. Do this, and no matter where you are, you will have nothing to fear.
The Baron's grumpy, lazy friend Muta is performed by Peter Boyle, and in my opinion, he steals the show. Everybody Loves Raymond was on its last season in 2005, where he played Raymond's father, Frank Barone. Frank is a wisecracking sourpuss in Everybody Loves Raymond, and that personality carries over perfectly to Muta.
Enough, Baron. Turn it off. No one's impressed with your cheesy light show, okay?
I don't think they could have done much better than Boyle for the role of this large kitty. His performance and dialogue are hysterical.
Just tastes like boiled grass to me.
Tea is too refined for your crude taste buds.
At least I don't eat worms.
Unfortunately, this would be one of Boyle's final roles, as he passed away the year after this dub was released. Another friend of the Baron and annoyance to Muta is a gargoyle crow named Toto, played by Elliot Gould.
I'm just glad I had enough friends hanging out in the area.
Are you sure we're not too heavy?
You're light as a feather, Haru.
Thanks.
The Cat King's voice actor is a name that really caught eyes upon announcement, as he is played by the legendary Tim Curry. I think the name speaks for itself, as he's been in so many projects, like the cult hit The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Cartoon fans may recognize him as being Nigel Thornberry in the Nickelodeon show The Wild Thornberrys.
That was smashing!
The dub took creative liberties with the Cat King, as instead of talking like an old man, he speaks like a groovy hippie. Cindy and Don Hewitt elaborated on the seemingly odd decision in an interview with Nausicaa.net. Often, characters' voices feel bland in direct translations, because their quirks and idiosyncrasies are dropped. We try to find a voice for each character. The Cat King's posture, attitude, and actions implied to us that he was the type of groovy dude who might call everyone babe and say ciao, so we added that to his dialogue. Curry echoed their thoughts on the character, enjoying the divergence from the comparably normal Japanese version. Since Ghibli oversees dubs of their work, it managed to get past them, so they were likely okay with the hippie kitty.
Wow, don't you look good? Welcome to the royal family, babe.
Prince Loon, who was almost roadkill at the start of the movie, is performed by Australian actor Andrew Bevis. Bevis is primarily a stage actor, having a storied career across many performances from Romeo and Juliet to Jerry Springer the Opera, that apparently exists. Not only is Prince Loon Bevis' only voice acting gig, This is his only movie gig, period.
Will you accept these crackers as a symbol of my love for you, for as long as our 9 lives shall last?
In another departure from the Japanese version, one of the king's servants, Natoru, is voiced by Andy Richter, unlike in Japanese where the character is played by a woman. Natoru is unnamed in the dub, but named in a behind-the-scenes extra, pronounced Natoru. Richter's idea for the voice was sounding like a suck-up. He was told to just be himself by the director, resulting in more divergence from the source material.
We seem to have accidentally dropped you upon entry. Your fat servant exceeded our weight limit, I'm afraid.
And lastly, another servant of the king, Natori, again unnamed in the dub, is played by René Auberjonois.
Please allow me to present our wise and incredibly magnificent ruler, King of Cat Kingdom, the Cat King!
Other actors on the cast include Kristen Bell, Mona Marshall, and Bradley Pierce, among others. The dub was directed by Rick Dempsey, who was Senior Creative Vice President of Disney from 2003 until recently. His responsibilities included overseeing the Disney Character Voices department and localizing and casting of Disney properties into other regions. He's done voice directing, voice coaching, dialogue directing, and more over the course of his career. Presently, he's a consultant for Disney. What about the dub itself? The cast list and descriptions have some deviations from the Japanese version, but does it go far beyond that? Well, yes, but not to an offensive degree. On the whole, the movie still feels like a Ghibli film. The only major example of the typical Americanized Japanese pronunciation is Machida, since most characters either don't have names, have 2-syllable Japanese names, or are Western-sounding names. There are rare cases where Haru is pronounced strangely, but those are far and few between. There are no major localization changes on the scale of something like renaming characters or changing things like coffee to hot chocolate. There is a scene where the dub clarifies something to a Western audience, present during the marriage fantasy sequence where Haru is imagining marrying a cat. To make it clear it's a marriage, a voice says,
"I now pronounce you cat and wife. You may kiss the bride."
While Japanese culture isn't as present in this film as others in Ghibli's lineup, puns are in some areas of the film, and for the most part they're handled well in this dub. When Haru is formally introduced to Muta, in Japanese she accidentally calls him Buta, which means pig, implying he is fat like a pig. The dub changes this to Muta, implying he's fat like a cow. Bravo on the pun! Near the climax of the movie, where Haru begins to transform into a cat, she begins to add nya to her sentences in Japanese. The dub follows suit by having her say things like, "I'm a meowsy dancer." Again, bravo! The dub script is a little clever and adds a few cat puns of its own. Early in the movie, when Haru and her friend see the cat prince crossing the road with a box in his mouth, Haru originally just comments he might be a burglar, but the dub takes it one step further and has her say cat burglar. Also, in an early confrontation between Muta and Toto, Toto tells Muta to not be so catty. There isn't an overwhelming presence of extra puns, but I found these worth noting. And to finish, a major theme of The Cat Returns is discovering where one belongs, or as it's called in Japanese, living in one's own time. Thus, the Cat Kingdom is a place for cats who don't know where they belong or don't live in their own time. The dub changes this motif to believing in yourself, a more general and straightforward theme. The Cat Returns has nothing else major to note. The direction is good, the lip flaps match fine, and it is clear the cast had fun recording the project. No exact sales numbers are known for The Cat Returns on DVD, but upon its first week of release, it ranked 27th on Nielsen Video Scan, being tied with something else. The week following, it fell out of the top 50 entirely. Critically, the movie did well, sitting pretty with a cool 88% on Rotten Tomatoes across 24 reviews as of this recording. Sweetly charming and beautifully animated, The Cat Returns offers anime adventure suitable for the very young and young at heart. On Metacritic, it currently has a 70 across 11 critical reviews. Not bad at all. As for the dub, Anime News Network's Carlos Santos gave it an A-, same as the Japanese audio track. He praised the performances of Anne Hathaway and Carrie Elwes, the latter of whom he says steals the show, but criticized the, quote, reinterpretations of Natoru and the Cat King, saying they alter the feel of the story. Santos also praised the bevy of bonuses on the DVD, but criticized the dub titles instead of proper subtitles of the Japanese audio track. It's worth noting that the Japanese DVD of The Cat Returns did have a faithful English subtitle track, but for unknown reasons this was not included in the initial English releases. The later G-Kids release remedied the dub titles problem by giving the Japanese version proper English subs. And as Bamboo Dong gave the dub an A, the same score as the Japanese track in her review of the 2015 Blu-ray/DVD. Your mileage may vary with some of the side characters, but Hathaway and Elwes are a sterling pair and really do a great job of carrying the film. Outside anime fan reviews, Wally Hammond of Timeout.com recommended this movie for cats of all ages, praising the performances of Hathaway, Boyle, and Elwes. BBC's Neil Smith gave the movie 3 out of 5 stars, enjoying the movie itself and the English cast, but criticizing the dub's US language like busted, babe, and jerk. Not everyone was wild about this film, such as Anna Smith of Empire Online. She criticized the lack of tension or emotional investment, saying the movie is for anime and animal lovers only. All in all, The Cat Returns performed well with Western audiences and was a good enough success for the House of Mouse. The question remained though, where is Whisper of the Heart? In May of 2005, a few months after the release of The Cat Returns on DVD, Cindy and Don Hewitt and Rick Dempsey were interviewed by Nausicaa.net about upcoming English Ghibli releases, including Whisper of the Heart. The 3 confirmed production for the dub was halted in 2003 and had only recently resumed, meaning production was on hold for nearly 2 years. The reason was what many suspected: legal hurdles involving Take Me Home Country Roads that took longer than expected to iron out. But beyond Country Roads, Ghibli wanted to change the release order of the films in the US. These factors combined led to the decision of putting Whisper on the back burner and working on other projects. The team expected the film to launch alongside Howl's Moving Castle and the brand new dub of My Neighbor Totoro in the spring of 2006. Additionally, the Hewitts answered another burning question: how would the dub handle Shizuku translating Take Me Home Country Roads? That's so important to the original version of the film and helps drive Shizuku's creativity, it doesn't make sense to translate an English song into, well, English. Granted, Country Roads has been adapted for different regions to replace West Virginia with other locales such as West Jamaica, but how did the team over at Disney handle this obstacle? The Hewitts explained: instead of having Shizuku translate Country Roads into Japanese, we had Shizuku come up with her own lyrics for the tune. Her first attempt is a little rough. Later, as she's growing as a writer, she writes another version which is better, because she writes it from the heart. Hopefully these scenes will play much the way they did in the original. On October 5th, 2005, Turner Classic Movies announced the dub was scheduled to debut on January 19th, 2006 during their Thursday block of Ghibli films throughout January, just a few hours after the premiere of Disney's new My Neighbor Totoro dub. Not long after this announcement, Ultimate Disney and Amazon listed Whisper of the Heart along with My Neighbor Totoro and Howl's Moving Castle DVD sets with a release date of March 7th, 2006, a simultaneous release as the Hewitts anticipated. I mentioned before some of the cast list was announced all the way back in December of 2003, listing 5 characters in the movie, so let's go through those. Per the MTV interview, Brittany Snow is in the dub of the movie, playing the lead character Shizuku. Snow sounds appropriate for the character, matching the vocal range for the middle schooler, and her experience doesn't stop her from believably putting herself in the shoes of a naive girl. Snow has also been in another Disney project, voicing Namine in Kingdom Hearts 2.
I was having an extraordinary day. Like I was living in a fairy tale. Then some jerk talked to me for 2 seconds and ruined everything.
Sounds complicated.
Love interest and violinist Seiji Amasawa is performed by David Gallagher. Okay, so for half of the movie, I was trying to figure out who was playing Seiji and how I knew the voice. Then it hit me. It's Riku from Kingdom Hearts. So yeah, the 2 leads in this movie are voiced by Namine and Riku. On its own merits though, I enjoyed it. Gallagher felt like a good fit for a young tsundere boy.
Pretty cool, huh? It's actually an accident. Sometimes the eyes get flawed when they're installed, then they refract the light like that.
Seiji's grandfather and owner of the antique shop Shiro Nishi is performed by Harold Gold. It's worth noting that Harold Gold isn't related to Elliot Gold, who played Toto in The Cat Returns. That's just a coincidence.
Oh, hello there.
I'm sorry.
No, please, it's good to have visitors. Look around as much as you like. The Baron is bored too.
Shizuku's sister Shiho is voiced by Courtney Thorne-Smith. She described Shiho as being, quote, brattier than anyone she's ever played, and described her own performance as an ode to her older sister when she was a teenager.
Are you studying?
Uh-huh.
You're gonna have big problems if you slack off just because Dad and Mom don't bug you about it.
I'm studying, okay?
And reprising his role from The Cat Returns is Cary Elwes as the Baron. However, in this film, he plays the top hat sporting cat with a slightly lower, older sounding voice, as the team saw Whisper as a sequel, not a prequel or spin-off, to The Cat Returns. Remember, Whisper was finished and released in America after The Cat Returns, so it makes sense the staff may have been confused.
Let us go forth together, in search of the vein of lapis lazuli.
These are all roles confirmed in 2003. So to go over the other characters in the film, Shizuku's best friend Yuko is played by Ashley Tisdale.
I should have known that you were going to do this.
You said to meet outside the school, not inside. I waited in the sun for 15 minutes. Do you know how many freckles I have now?
Snow and Tisdale, at least at the time, were best friends and were brought in to record together when their characters sang Country Roads and Concrete Roads early in the movie.
Country roads, I think I'll go down this path.
It's an amazing song. And
Shizuku's mom, Asako, is voiced by Jean Smart. Smart found the role relatable as a hard-working mom herself, and her regular speaking voice worked well to give this character life in English.
I see. I've gotten so used to you helping me out while I've been in school. But we'll be fine. I'll talk to your father about it.
Shizuku's dad, Seiya, is performed by James B. Sicken.
Honey, why don't we let Shizuku do what she thinks is best? Not everyone needs to follow the same path.
And Yuko's crush Sugimura is played by Martin Spaniers. Spaniers was no older than 18 when he recorded this movie and spoke in a slightly higher pitch to better match the age of his character.
I totally aced that test.
Well, good for you.
Everything I studied was on the test, and I barely studied.
So you're not just a bench warmer after all.
Others on the cast include several notable names like Abigail Mavity, Corey Burton, Jeff Bennett, and Walker Edmiston. This dub was directed by Rick Dempsey. His direction, once again, is commendable. When casting for Ghibli dubs, Disney has access to just about every star in the business, and while many actors request to be in Ghibli movies, the team only casts those good for the role, not just stars for the sake of stars. On a technical level, this dub is as good as any other Disney Ghibli project. Lit flaps match well, the film's audio is mixed well, the essentials are all covered well, but the dub of Whisper of the Heart has several changes and idiosyncrasies, some that are commonly seen, some that make sense, and some that are odd. And then, of course, there's the Country Roads issue, but let's start with some basic notes. We see the usual problems when Japanese names pop up, like Shizuku being pronounced Shizuku, but what blew me away was Sugimura's name. Sugimura isn't exactly an uncommon name, but the dub somehow managed to screw it up, having characters pronounce it as Sujimura. How did that happen? Moving past the names, Disney Ghibli dubs use a technique called explicitation. Instead of putting on-screen notes for Japanese text or cultural references, the script has characters say what is on the screen. The arguably most well-known example of this is in Spirited Away when Chihiro says it's a bathhouse upon seeing, well, a bathhouse. There are two cases in Whisper of the Heart where explicitation is used, the first being a couple minutes into the movie. When Shizuku is looking at the checkout cards to her library books, she reads off the name Seiji Amasawa again and again to show he's on all the cards, whereas originally she was silent as a Japanese audience could likely read his name just fine. Then, later in the movie when the cat leads Shizuku to the antique shop, she says aloud,
"An antique shop? He's going shopping now?"
Comparable to the case in Spirited Away. It's a solid method to easily integrate these ideas for a Western audience. References to Japanese culture were also altered to make it more accessible to those unfamiliar with Japan. Barley tea became iced tea, mentions of cooking rice in early scenes were removed, and a line about lovers being connected by red string was changed to calling two characters soulmates. So now, let's talk about the real monster of a challenge. How in the world did they adapt Shizuku making new lyrics to the timeless John Denver classic, Take Me Home Country Roads? The Hewitts answered earlier that she is writing from the heart, and that may work on paper, but did this work in practice? Well, kind of.
And it might not be appropriate for graduation. I just tried to write something from the heart.
The famous impromptu performance of the song is by and large the highlight of the dub. We'll talk about it in a bit. But the song itself is an adaptation of the Japanese version, capturing the feel of the tune, not making any references to the American version's West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, or Shenandoah River, all of which are 6,000 miles away from Japan. The whole concept works the best it can. The English lyrics of Ghibli's Country Roads are good and flow well in song form, but it's one of those concepts that doesn't make the jump well from Japanese to English. Regardless, bravo to everyone on the team for making the arguably most recognized part of the whole movie the best moment in the dub. Some fans, myself included, thought having a pro like Brittany Snow sing Country Roads as a character who is young and inexperienced would be off-putting. Hats off to her though, because she managed to sound restrained and shy during the song, very much in character for Shizuku. And that's about where the in-character portion peaks. The writers rebuilt Shizuku's characterization, or rather, they exaggerated a specific trait. She is sassy in the English dub. Don't get me wrong, Shizuku is no angel, but she's not snarky or outright savage like in the dub. Here are some highlights from the dub to show what I mean.
Hi, Yappy. Can't you bark any louder than that? Oh, the silent treatment. So long, Snotty.
What if he's the one who checked out all those books? He's your perfect match.
Like a fairy tale. If it's him, it's not a fairy tale. It's a horror story.
The script also likes to use the word corny. I won't spoil how the film ends, as it is a sweet moment, but the dub hampers it by calling it corny, something not even alluded to in the Japanese version. Shizuku also calls the rough draft of her book corny, she calls her lyrics to Country Roads corny, everything is corny. Lastly, the dub completely rewrites scenes to not only clarify what's going on, but outright spell out plot points. Without going into too much detail, the dub provides ham-fisted foreshadowing about Shizuku eventually writing a story about the Baron. Unlike in Japanese, where the details on the Baron are vague and Shizuku uses her creativity to fill in the blanks, the dub adds more details to him through characters' dialogue, all of which appear in her story later. Despite all the changes though, the core message of the movie remains the same: finding and refining one's talents, overcoming the struggles one may face in their journey of artistry, going after one's dreams. And I'm glad those messages weren't erased. I think Shizuku would call that observation corny. I've rambled on about this dub for a while. I personally wasn't a fan of the script changes with characters being jerks and dialogue spelling everything out. Some people may like it. Actually, Marty Mapes of Movie Habit praised how clear the dub made the story and called the language more natural than in the subtitles, going as far as to say the English version is better than the Japanese one. However, he also notes that the major snag of the translation is the Country Roads portion. Mike Toole commented on the English version in his review. Like most of the other Disney Ghibli releases, I find the dubbed version natural sounding and enjoyable. The production team is talented at finding character actors who are good at voiceover work, instead of stunt casting big names. Overall, however, I tilt towards the Japanese version simply because Country Roads, with its rewritten Japanese lyrics, is so crucial to the storyline. No reviews bring up the points I mentioned in my analysis with the snippy dialogue, and really not many reviews even bring up the dub at all. The ones that do mention it all note the elephant in the room: the Country Roads translation being so integral to the film. What about the movie on its own though, not counting the dub? Whisper of the Heart currently sits at 94% on Rotten Tomatoes across 18 critical reviews and 75 on Metacritic across 4 reviews. For audience scores on Metacritic, it has an 8.3 with 48 reviews, and sports similar scores on MyAnimeList, AniList, and Anime Planet. I asked on Twitter and YouTube why people loved this movie, and the responses were surprisingly varied. I saw comments like Watch Forever 1724 saying the characters are relatable and enjoyable, and Nezumoon noting Whisper looked so bright and beautiful. That one is par for the course for Ghibli. At Jekka1021 on Twitter enjoyed the theme of finding and accepting oneself, something found in both Whisper of the Heart and The Cat Returns, and official_nerd4917 liked the chemistry of Shizuku and Seiji in Whisper of the Heart. And Adele Valieve simply likes cats and the cozy vibe of The Cat Returns. Totally fair. In terms of commercial success, come June of 2006, Whisper's DVD North American sales ranked above volumes 7 and 8 of the 2003 Full Metal Alchemist, which 7 had come out in January and 8 had come out the same day as Disney's Ghibli Trio. By the end of the year, Whisper had 10% the sales ratio as Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. It did not sell as well as Howl's Moving Castle, My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, or Princess Mononoke, but slightly outperformed Nausicaa. That's still respectable, and it shows how powerful the Ghibli name is in the US. It's a shame fate was not kinder to director Yoshifumi Kondo, as he was clearly a talented director and could have had a lot more opportunities to showcase his talent, but what he did leave behind is a hidden gem in the studio's list of films. Likewise, The Cat Returns lacks the visual detail and notable Ghibli style found in Whisper of the Heart, but still utilizes that same kind of magic. It's not as thought-provoking or relatable as Whisper, but again is a worthwhile title in Ghibli's history. If you haven't seen Whisper of the Heart or The Cat Returns, give them a chance. If you want to see them for yourself, the rights to Whisper of the Heart as well as the rest of the Ghibli library has since been transferred to G-Kids. Their deal with the beloved studio beginning in September of 2011 and home video rights beginning October 17, 2017. Please note this information is accurate as of June of 2023. While you can pick up the older Disney DVD and Blu-ray versions on the secondhand market, the G-Kids versions are superior and more readily available on both physical media and digital platforms, including rental, purchase, and streaming. Blu-ray sets can be purchased just about anywhere online or in person that sells home media. Digitally, give it a look on Amazon Prime Video, YouTube, Google Play, Apple TV, and so forth. Just about every platform that sells digital movies has both Whisper of the Heart and The Cat Returns. Next time is one I've had in the works for a long time, and one that's been highly requested, so stay tuned. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave in the comments what did you think of the English versions of Whisper of the Heart and The Cat Returns? What do you think of the movies themselves? What else should I cover in this series? I'm always listening to your suggestions. And this one was thanks to charity donations to Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio through Extra Life. My team raised $810 for charity, most of which went to voting for these movies. This video was long, but I loved learning about the movies, especially because I had never seen The Cat Returns before. I had seen Whisper of the Heart, but only in Japanese. Shout out to all of my supporters on both Patreon and Twitch. Supporters on either platform got to see this video early, so if you'd like to support what I do, gain access to my exclusive Discord server, and have your name on screen here, please consider supporting. And one more time, special thank yous go to everyone that donated during Extra Life 2022. Andrew Bergman, Cybershroom, Janet L, Joe D, Matt, Project Scion, Straw Hat Ryan, and everyone else that donated during the event. Until next time, take care.